Australia was visited and partially explored by Europeans, especially the Dutch, long before British colonisation in 1788, but no one established a lasting settlement due to its perceived lack of value, geographic isolation, and the priorities of other powers. Pre-British European exploration. Dutch explorers were the first Europeans to make recorded landfalls. In 1606, Willem Janszoon, on the Duifken, landed on the Cape York Peninsula. Over the 17th century, dozens of Dutch voyagers mapped much of the western, northern, and parts of the southern coasts, naming the land New Holland. Other Europeans, including Spanish, e.g., Luis Vaz de Torres in 1606, and later English privateer William Dampier, 1688 and 1699, also visited or sighted parts of the coast. There are unproven theories of earlier Portuguese sightings in the 1520s, but no solid evidence of settlement. The Dutch did not colonize despite extensive knowledge of the coasts. Their reports consistently described the land as barren, with poor soil, scarce fresh water, and few resources that aligned with their commercial interests. Explorers concluded it was unsuitable for profitable settlement. Why no colonization by the Dutch or others? Economic priorities. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, was a profit-driven enterprise focused on the lucrative spice trade in the East Indies, modern Indonesia. Australia offered no obvious high-value commodities like spices, gold, or silver at the time. Establishing a colony would have been expensive with little return. Harsh environment. Much of the explored coastline, especially the west and north, appeared arid and inhospitable. The fertile eastern regions, where British settlement later succeeded, were not well known or prioritized until later voyagers like James Cook's. Strategic focus. The Dutch had successful colonies elsewhere, e.g., Cape Colony in South Africa, East Indies, that were more accessible and profitable. Australia was too remote and offered no strategic advantage for their trade routes. Other Europeans, the Spanish and Portuguese, were active in the region, but focused on richer territories in the Americas and Asia. The French explored later but did not commit to settlement before the British. No major power saw enough incentive. Non-European contact. Makassar, Trepangas from Sulawesi, Indonesia, visited northern Australia regularly from around the early to mid-18th century, possibly earlier, to harvest sea cucumbers, trepang, for trade with China. They interacted with Aboriginal communities through trade, but this was seasonal commercial contact, not colonization or large-scale settlement. It influenced local cultures, e.g., introducing goods, words, and some practices, but did not lead to territorial claims. Indigenous Australians had lived there for 40,000 to 60,000 plus years, but the question focuses on external colonization. Why the British in 1788? Britain acted later due to specific pressures. Loss of American colonies after the Revolutionary War removed a destination for transporting convicts. Prisons were overcrowded. Strategic and imperial motives. A base in the Pacific for trade, naval power and resources, e.g., timber, flax for ships. Cook's 1770 voyage and reports from Joseph Banks highlighted the eastern coast's potential. The First Fleet established a penal colony at Sydney Cove, which grew into a settler society. In short, earlier visitors, mainly Dutch, knew about Australia but deemed it not worth the effort for settlement. The British colonized it when their own needs, penal relief and imperial strategy, aligned with better knowledge of viable eastern lands, at a time when European global competition encouraged claiming empty territories. This late colonization was not due to total isolation, but because the continent didn't fit the economic or strategic calculations of prior explorers.